From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, military aircraft crashes near Kaduna Airport runway, killing 12 persons. It is feared that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, was among those on board. Vice President Oshibajo says the country will overcome its current travail and emerge a new nation, extols the media for its role in the sustenance of democracy. Print and broadcast media executives pay tributes to 9 of their departed colleagues, pledged to start celebrating living icons in the industry. And ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza takes effect despite clashes in Jerusalem. Plus business, sports, news from Abuja, and later international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, Nigerian Communications Commission denies asking subscribers to submit their mobile phone IMEI numbers from July 2021.
On sports news tonight, 2018 French Open champion Simona Halep withdraws from this year's tournament after failing to recover from a calf injury.
From Abuja, Federal Capital Territory authorities to commence administration of second jab of AstraZeneca vaccine on residents from Monday, May the 25th.
The country has been thrown into mourning following the death of 12 senior army officers in a military plane crash at the Kaduna International Airport today. The ill-fated aircraft crashed at the airport runway about 6 p.m. while it was raining heavily. And the presidency has confirmed that the Chief of Army Staff, Ibrahim Attahiru, was killed in the crash alongside 11 other officers, which happened this evening. The Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello mentioned that the Chief of Army Staff died in the tragic incident in a statement that he released shortly after the news broke. The Air Force, on its Twitter handle, said the incident happened this evening and the details would follow soon. Channel Television has gathered that the military plane was scheduled to land at the Nigerian Air Force base in Mando area before it diverted and landed at the Kaduna Airport. We'll have more on this in a bit, but Governor Ben Ayade's defection from the main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, to the ruling All Progressives Congress is still causing ripples in the political circle. Today, Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku said he is shocked and embarrassed over Governor Ayade's decision. He told State House correspondents after a meeting with the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, that Governor Ayade's action is all part of democracy. He adds that the country needs viable opposition, which is what the PDP means to the nation.
All of us see PDP as alternative to APC. And all the PDP governors are doing very, very well in their respective states. And for him to leave to APC, I don't know the details of that. I have not seen him, we have not met. But be that as it may, I believe that any democratic country must have an opposition, a viable opposition. And opposition in itself is good for democracy. If you don't have an opposition, then the government in power can go astray. And so I believe in a vibrant democracy with an opposition. If you have an opposition, it's good. But I want to assure you that all the governors in PDP are doing very well in their respective states.
In other news, courts in Nigeria will remain closed until after next monthly Federation Accounts Allocation Committee meeting. It's one of the critical decisions reached at the second conciliation meeting between the federal government, judiciary and parliamentary workers who have been on strike since April. Speaking after a meeting with the workers in Abuja, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, says an agreement has been reached for the workers to call off their strike as soon as their accounts are accredited. when the April federal allocations are shared.
Members of the Judiciary and Parliamentary Workers' Unions, the Nigeria Bar Association, representatives of the federal and state legislators, meet again to try and resolve the issues that have led to the over 1 month-old strike, which has halted court activities across the country. The workers declared an indefinite strike after a series of protests across the country to push for financial autonomy for the judiciary. The first two meetings to resolve the impasse failed, but as the meeting is reconvened, the Minister of Labour and Productivity assures that there is a renewed hope that the industrial action will be suspended soon.
The ongoing industrial action shall be suspended with immediate effect from the date of the agreement contained in this memorandum of action, provided that the conditionality indeed is effected immediately. So, all things being equal, we are hopeful that by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when the FAC allocations will have been done, that this agreement will come into effect.
The Nigeria Governors Forum had told journalists after a meeting with the Chief of Staff to the President that they are not opposed to financial autonomy for the judiciary.
The issue is about implementation. There has been no objection from governors on judicial and legislative autonomy. As a matter of fact, it would not have passed if governors were not in support in the first instance in the State Assembly. So that issue has been fully and holistically addressed. But we don't just want to agree to something on paper without working out the modalities for implementation. Thankfully, the meeting we have just emerged from with the Chief of Staff to the President chairing has worked out the modalities to the satisfaction of all parties.
While these may be cheery news for judiciary and parliamentary workers who are demanding financial autonomy, the courts that are currently under lock and key will remain so until the next federal allocation is shared and the states and federal judiciary accounts are credited.
To security matters, at least 4 persons have been arrested in connection with last night's attack on St. Vincent's Ferrer Catholic Church in Malumfashi local government area of Katsina State. Police authorities in the state say a priest identified as Reverend Father Alphonsus Bello died in the attack, while another, Reverend Father Joe Keke, was abducted. According to eyewitnesses, the gunmen broke into the church compound and moved straight to the apartments of the 2 priests. They say Reverend Father Bello resisted attempts by the gunmen to abduct him, but he was eventually overpowered. His body was found on a farmland behind the Capital Training School in Malumfashi in the early hours of today. The Acting Inspector General of Police, Mr. Alkali Baba, has assured residents of the Federal Capital Territory and Jos, the Plateau State capital, of their safety as they go about their lawful duties. He gave the assurance in a statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, Mr. Frank Kumba, following a viral spread of internal directive by the force to forestall a possible breach of security by criminal elements in the FCT and in Jos. He calls on citizens to be patriotic and maintain vigilance and support the police and other relevant stakeholders in keeping public spaces safe. As we said earlier, we'll have more on our lead story tonight, which is the plane crash in Abuja involving the Chief of Army Staff, the Lieutenant General Attahiru, who died in that crash at 6 p.m. today. President Buhari expresses his shock and sorrow over the death of Lieutenant General Attahiru and the others. The president is deeply saddened over the air crash. They claimed the Chief of Army Staff and other military officers condoling with the family of the deceased, of military and Nigerians in general, describing them as heroes who paid the ultimate price for peace and security in the land. And while praying that God receives the soul of the patriots, the president says the crash is one mortal blow to our underbelly at a time our armed forces are poised to end the security challenges facing the country. The president pledged that the departed would not die in vain. The sitting of the Judicial Panel of Inquiry on Police Brutality and EndSARS victims continued today with a total of 12 cases listed for further hearing, defense and report at the Lagos State Court of Arbitration. With no compensation paid, the panel later adjourned sitting of the cases to June 5th and 8th for further hearing. Before adjourning, the case in which the Nigerian Army is a party to was called up for further hearing, and the witness, Sarah Ibrahim, presented more evidence to drive home her point on the incident of October 20, 2020.
Well, that morning, 21st morning, when we were still trying to locate peaceful protesters and those that were being treated and those that were being referred, at the toll gate, there were over 21 policemen. The video is there, you can play it and count yourself at the toll gate. And the army said the policemen stayed back, and that was why they were out, but there were policemen there. And they were actually also picking bullets there.
No, I'm talking about...
So later, they told everyone there to move away. And 3 huge trucks, Lagos State trucks, came to not sweep or clean, with brushes underneath, scrubbing and washing the floor. But before they did that, we already had our videos.
In part 2, after the break, we'll have more on the ill-fated air crash that happened this evening, killing the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Attahiru. Plus, her Vice President, Yomi Osinbajo, says the country will overcome its current travail and emerge a new nation as he extols the media for its role in the sustenance of democracy. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television right here in Lagos. A reminder of our top stories this evening. Military aircraft crashes near Kaduna Airport runway, killing 12 persons, including the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru. Vice President Osinbajo says the country will overcome its current travail and emerge a new nation, extols the media for its role in the sustenance of democracy. Print and broadcast media executives pay tributes to 9 of their departed colleagues, pledged to start celebrating living icons in the industry. Fire between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza takes effect despite clashes in Jerusalem. Just a recap of our lead story tonight, the plane crash at the Kaduna International Airport today, which killed the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, and 11 others, confirmed by the presidency. We have it that the ill-fated aircraft crashed at the airport runway at about 6 p.m. while it was raining heavily today. The Air Force on its Twitter handle said the incident happened, with details expected to follow, but Channels Television did gather the military plane was scheduled to land in Mando area before it diverted and landed in Kaduna Airport. Just a while ago, President Muhammadu Buhari expressed his shock and sorrow over the death of Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru and the others. President Buhari said he's deeply saddened over the air crash that claimed the lives of these officers, praying God receives the souls of the patriots. The president says the crash is one mortal blow to our underbelly at a time our armed forces are poised to end the security challenges facing the country. He pledged to the departed would not die in vain. The Chief of Army Staff, Ibrahim Attahiru, had an eventful military career before rising through the ranks. Still, he became the country's #1 officer, commanding officer in the army. His appointment as Chief of Army Staff on January 26th came at a time Nigerians mounted pressure on the federal government to change service chiefs. Unfortunately, the general fell today, but not in the battlefield. Here's a look at his background in the army. Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru was appointed the 21st Chief of Army Staff on January 26, 2021 by President Muhammadu Buhari. Born on August 10, 1966 in Doka, Kaduna North Local Government Area, Kaduna State, he was a graduate of the Nigerian Defence Academy, Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, and Nigerian Army School of Infantry. He commenced his cadet training in January 1984 and was commissioned into the rank of Second Lieutenant in December 1986 as an infantry officer. He holds a master's degree in Strategic Management and Policy Studies from the Nigerian Defence Academy. Other academic qualifications include Masters of Science in Human Resources Management and Development from Salford University in the United Kingdom and Graduate Diploma in International Studies from the University of Nairobi, Kenya. General Attahiru held several appointments on the staff, instructional, and in command during his military career, prominent of which was a tour of duty with the United Nations in Sierra Leone as a military observer on Operation Barras in September 2000, Operation Officer and later Company Commander in Nibat 90 ECOMOG operations in Liberia. General Attahiru commanded all through the chain of command in the Nigerian Army, including the 146th Battalion Nigerian Army, Operation Harmony 4 in the Bakassi Peninsula, General Officer commanding 82 Division and Theatre Commander, Operation Lafia Dole, the counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency outfit in northeastern Nigeria, to name a few. He was also an instructor at the Depot Nigerian Army, Nigerian Defence Academy, and the Nigeria Army School of Infantry. Later, he served as a director in staff and chief instructor at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, in Kaduna.
As your Chief of Army Staff.
Since his appointment as Chief of Army Staff, General Attahiru has been at the forefront of bringing enduring peace to the country by touring the frontline states in the fight against insurgency.
You can see Operation Turata.
He also visited military formations to assess and motivate troops and top military officers. No doubt, the death of General Attahiru will be felt greatly, as his appointment brought renewed hope and vision in combating insecurity. A great loss indeed to the country and to his family, and we're praying for the repose of his soul. In other news, it's been a busy day for the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who's had to attend official events in Abuja and Lagos today. First, he joined the National Prayer Breakfast organized by the Christian Association of Nigeria and former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, in Abuja, where he said a new Nigeria is in the making, but it is currently covered by the clouds and travails which will certainly give way to a glorious and bright new morn of a new nation. He explains that the birth of a new nation is significant, especially in these times, while also emphasizing the need for collective prayers, faith, hope, and action.
The nation in the throes of a pandemic for well over a year, leading to a severe economic downturn, loss of jobs and livelihoods. And as we climbed out of the recession, we have been faced with an unprecedented scale of insecurity in different zones of the nation. But for us who are gathered here today, children of God, we see the invisible. We know that every time that the nation where the children of God live is challenged, it is God's call to his people to take action. It's an opportunity for God to demonstrate that he is God over the nations, that he is indeed the creator of the heavens and the earth, and that he knows the beginning from the end. The way that God reveals things is always, well, depending on who it is, in pictures, in forms, and for some in visions. From from my bedroom, I can see the rock, Aso Rock, a huge rock. I can see it very clearly, just lying down on my bed. I can see it. Once I open the window, I can see it just right far away or right in front of me. I can see it. But there are times when it is completely covered by clouds, completely, such that if I open my window, I cannot see it at all. I cannot see it at all. As a matter of fact, if I had come into that room on a day when I didn't know that the rock was there, I would have assumed that there was no rock there, big as the rock is. That metaphor is the same for our nation. The nation, the new nation is birthed already. Amen. It is covered by a cloud, but the cloud will clear. Amen. And God Almighty will take all of the glory. Amen. For the birthing of this nation. Amen.
We'll stay a bit more in Abuja because Gloria Mizuke joins us now with more on the news at 10. Hi, Gloria.
Hello, Amarachi. Good to see you. The federal government, Federal Capital Territory Administration, says that it will commence the administration of the second. The Federal Capital Territory Administration says it will commence the administration of the second jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine on residents who have already taken the first jab on Monday, May the 25th. Speaking to journalists in Abuja, the Acting Secretary, Health and Human Services Secretariat, Mr. Mohammed Kawu, says the exercise is to allow for full protection against the COVID-19 virus. The Federal Capital Territory started administering the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine on March 15, 2021, but had to halt the exercise because of a shortage of vaccines in order to enable those who have already taken the first jab to get full inoculation.
The first phase for FCT, we were given 240-something thousand vaccines. We were supposed to vaccinate 50% of it, which we have vaccinated 130,000 people. So we have recorded over 100% of the first dose. So we are satisfied. However, this vaccination was supposed to last for about 4 weeks, but it lasted about 6 weeks because of the hesitancy. We had to extend to ensure that everybody that required to take the first dose in the first phase had been covered. This second one that is starting on 24th of May, that is next Monday, is for those that have had their first doses in the FCT to come up and take their second doses. While the government of Nigeria is arranging to bring more vaccines for the second phase of those that who have not been vaccinated before. This one is for those that have been vaccinated before and required to take their second dose.
In a bid to promote sustainable environment, reduce carbon emission and provide clean energy, the Nigerian Breweries PLC has launched its first solar power plant in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. The 663.6 kilowatts peak solar power plant is targeted at producing 800 megawatts of energy for production at the Ibadan plant. The project, which was commissioned by the Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, is part of the carbon neutrality agenda of the company to provide affordable and clean energy in sustainable environment.
The challenge of climate change may persist until deliberate and decisive action is taken by all, which is why the private sector and government are expected to synergize to achieve clean energy.
How are you?
The Nigerian Breweries PLC has gone beyond the rhetoric and taken the lead with the commissioning of its 663.6 kilowatts peak solar power plant in Ibadan, the third largest brewery in Nigeria.
We decided to use it as the pilot to demonstrate our firm commitment to environmental sustainability by making a major financial investment to establish this solar power plant.
The 75-year-old company is committing to the carbon neutrality agenda, which seeks to completely decarbonize production by brewing from clean energy sources.
This solar power plant that you will be commissioning today is expected to provide us with 800 megawatts of power annually. This means clear energy for us in Nigerian breweries, but it also means cleaner energy and air for the people of Ibadan and Oyo State.
For the Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, Nigerian Breweries is taking an important step and promises that the state will continue to promote enterprise.
We understand the significance of the work that corporations like the Nigerian breweries are doing in providing employment for the people of Oyo State, and so we strive to make life easier for them. Our Q1 2021 Business Expectation Survey indicates that businesses in Oyo State maintain a positive outlook despite the national challenges.
With the launch of this project, the management believes things will only get better.
It's extremely significant because we are now officially going to be brewing the majority of our products in this location using solar energy.
Sited on a 70-hectare land with a technical capacity of 2.5 million hectoliters, the Ibadan plant of the Nigerian breweries, which currently produces 14 brands, will power 13.3 million bottles through the solar plant, providing cleaner air for the residents of Ibadan.
When the News at 10 returns, the Nigeria Communications Commission denies asking subscribers to submit their mobile phone IMEI number from July 2021. That's in Business News. To join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the News at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Milk is not a meal for children only. Adults, too, need it. That's according to the health, nutrition and diet experts. During the Hollandia Dairy Day conference in Lagos, the experts noted that it was necessary to correct that misinformation alongside others surrounding milk consumption. They add that according to the WHO recommendation, while children need between 200 to 400 millimeters, adults need between 300 to 500 millimeters of milk daily.
Milk, according to the World Health Organization, is the richest source of calcium. It also contains other nutrients like magnesium, selenium, riboflavin, vitamin B12, and pantothenic acid. In spite of these benefits, there are still some myths against the consumption of milk. Dispelling these misconceptions is the reason for this occasion, the Hollandia Dairy Day Conference. It brings together medical practitioners, health nutritionists, dietitians, and others. This is the maiden edition of the event organized by the Chi Limited, a leader in Nigeria's food and beverages industry.
There's so many mysteries and misconceptions about milk and, the benefits of milk and how important it is for our day-to-day needs. And today actually demystified a lot of things for me. I consider myself someone who's super healthy and who wants to continue to make the right decisions and right nutritional decisions for my body.
Nutritionists and dietitians advocate daily consumption of milk for all ages between infancy and adulthood.
For adults, especially the aged parents who are getting weaker, their bones are getting weaker, and calcium and vitamin D are some of the key nutrients that they require to maintain strong bones. So for them to really remain strong while they age, they also require milk.
You know that milk contains vitamin D, which helps to strengthen the immune system. In this era of COVID-19, when everyone is trying to strengthen their immune system, milk is very important.
They explain that milk consumption can come in different forms like yogurt, ice cream, and other dairy products, which the Chi company boasts to have in various variants.
We have the exotic that comes in different variants. You have the mango, you have the pineapple, you have the orange. You also have the yogurt zero, which is one of the favorite brands that's come. It came up just not too long. For those people who say, I don't want to take yogurts with sugar, we have zero. There is the UHT milk, which is also a little percentage of fats for those people who really don't want a zero, but they want a little of fat. So there's so many range of them.
The conference is the first of its kind ever. Chi Limited is promising that this will be an annual event.
That's it from the nation's capital. Back to you, Amarachi, for more on the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. We're staying with our lead story tonight. We do have a statement from the Nigerian Army Public Relations Officer, the director, beg your pardon, Mohammed Yarima, who released this just a while ago. The Army regretting to announce the passing away of its Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru. A sad event, it says, occurred following an air crash in Kaduna, which also claimed the lives of 10 other officers, including the crew. Altogether, 11 people died in that crash, including the Chief of Army Staff. The Chief of Army Staff was en route to Kaduna from Abuja today when the unfortunate incident happened. They will be communicating more details about the sad incident and the burial arrangements. It's time for business news. Here's Anwar Wodo.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Marachi. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian Communications Commission has been reacting to the recent report that Nigerians are to submit the International Mobile Equipment Identity Number of their mobile phones by July 2021, stressing that it has no plans to do that. A statement by the Commission explains that through the deployment of a device management system, subscribers will be protected against phone theft and eliminate fake devices from the networks. It also adds that DMs will capture IMEI automatically without the need for subscribers to submit the numbers. The NCC says the revised national identity policy for SIM cards, where the purported report emanated from, has been uploaded on the Commission's website for the general public. The Bank of Industry's total assets has grown from 1.04 trillion naira to 1.86 trillion naira between the year 2019 and 2020, largely due to the successful debt syndications of €1 billion and $1 billion that was concluded in March and December last year. The chairman, board of directors of the bank, Mr. Aliyu Diko, who gave these figures at the 61st annual general meeting in Abuja, says the bank recorded 79.1% increase year on year.
It's the first annual general meeting of the Bank of Industry. The board of directors, shareholders and auditors are present to hear the financial statements of the bank for the year ended 2020 and the projections for 2021. First, the financial report for 2020. The chairman gives a breakdown of the 2020 report for the group and the contributions made towards empowerment schemes and the fight against COVID-19.
Loans and advances grew marginally in 2020 by 1.3% to 749.84 billion from the 2019 position, a reflection of the adverse impact of the challenging operating environment on growth of new loans.
He speaks on the projections for 2021 with a strategy of focusing on business recovery and watching closely for new business opportunities.
A theme that we expect to pervade the global economic landscape in 2021 is economic recovery. The IMF projects a growth of 1.5% for Nigeria on the back of recovery in oil economy.
The bank also recorded a commendable profit before tax and reduced interest rates for its customers.
In spite of the what happened in the year, the challenges, we were able to close the year with about a profit before tax of about 35.5 billion naira for the group. The bank approved that we reduce the interest rate from 10% per annum to 8% per annum. We also allowed them to have a longer period of moratorium to make it easier for them. We as a bank also, we are socially responsible. We contributed 1 billion naira in 2020 towards the COVID-19 pandemic.
As the 2020 financial year comes to a close, the management, staff, shareholders and other strategic partners of the bank are very optimistic that the success recorded in the outgoing year would be sustained and exceeded in 2021 while assisting businesses.
The local equities market has extended the bearish run throughout the 5 trading days this week as the NSE All-Share Index dips by 0.01%, largely driven by investors' apathy. Uvie Bikomo has the details.
It's been a lackluster week for the domestic stock market, and that's because the bear has refused to lose its strong grip on the overall performance of listed equities. The stock market closed the last trading day for the week still in the red but almost flat as the bull struggled to make a comeback after being displaced from its 4-day reign within the month. It's also similar bearish performance on the activity chart as volumes of shares transactions remain thin, with about 174 million total units of equities traded, and these were largely contributed by the shares of CHAMS, UACN, and Bois Cement. On the other hand, the sectoral performance was slightly mixed across the 5 counters, with losses recorded on the banking, oil and gas, and industrial goods sectors, and gains posted by the banking and insurance sector components. No doubt these are uncertain times for the equities market, but as I said on Thursday, the downturn in the price of some high-value stocks signals some opportunity for new investors to enter the market, and with some patience and caution, they will get better return for their investment. That's all for your stock market. I'm Uvie Bikomo.
Thank you, VA. Stocks in the United States have closed today mixed after investors were caught by volatile trading amid concerns about inflation outlook. Let's see how they all ended today. That's business news on the last trading day of the week. Thanks for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Back to you, Marachi.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. It's high time media practitioners started to appreciate one another's achievements, much as they've done over the years. That's a resolution of some media leaders who were speaking during the celebration of some iconic practitioners who passed over the last 15 months. Between July 2020 and February 11th, 2021, the Nigerian media lost 9 icons. While they're no longer present, the media family would not allow their memory stay beneath the earth and are here to celebrate them with an afternoon of tributes. It's a hall packed full with leaders in both print and broadcast media industry from across the country on the invitation of the Nigerian Press Organization. Joining in the celebration of the media legends are the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and his Ekiti State counterpart, Kayode Fayemi. The widows, children, and other relatives and friends of the pacesetters are also present.
Each of these 9 men have lived an eventful and impactful life. There are traces of them everywhere, in the families they raised, the colleagues they mentored, and the institutions they led.
It is an outpouring of tributes to the media luminaries, some of whom paved the way to some privileges practitioners now enjoy. Malam Ismaila Issa, who was till he passed a life patron of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, is extolled for his sacrifices and principles.
Ismaila spent his life servicing other people's lives and organizations. Look, if Ismaila was not your friend, my friend, you miss so.
Former General Manager, Lagos State Broadcasting Corporation, B.C. Lawrence, is honored for his contribution to sports development, described as legendary.
Even though we are of different ages, my respect and fascination for Bizlaw grew intensely anytime I reflected on the bond and camaraderie shared between him and my inimitable and illustrious senior professional colleagues like Fabio Lanikwekun, Dele Adetiba, and the late Yinka Craig.
The chairman of Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, recalls when his path crossed with that of late Ben Egbuna in 1979. He extols him for his forthrightness against corruption and fearlessness.
I first knew Ben Egbuna when I resumed work at Voice of Nigeria in 1979 and was always impressed by his energy and dedication. He was a visionary who was brilliant, innovative, and creative. And as such, he contributed in large measure to the development of Voice of Nigeria.
Former Governor of Ogun State and life patron of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Ashoba, considers the contribution of the former Governor of Lagos State, Chief Lateef Jakonde, higher in journalism than in governance and politics.
He was involved in the formation of the NUJ. He was the first president of the Guild of Editors. He was the first president of the MPAN. He was the first African to be the chairman of International Press Institute, made up of editors all over the world and publishers.
It is the first time this is happening in the history of the media in the country, and the organizers are working on making it a regular event, not just for the dead, but also for the living. Beyond our shores now, trucks full of medicine, food and fuel have entered through a crossing in Gaza that has been temporarily opened by Israel. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says the priority now is to identify and help thousands of people displaced by the fighting. Salmon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. After 11 days of fighting, a ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas in the Gaza Strip has come into effect. Soon after it started, large numbers of Palestinians took to the streets in cars and on foot to celebrate. In Gaza, drivers honked their horns while loudspeakers from mosques pronounced the victory of the resistance. Israel's military said it was removing nearly all emergency restrictions on movement throughout the country. More than 250 people are thought to have died so far in the fighting. Spain has said most of the thousands of migrants who entered its North African enclave of Ceuta this week have returned to Morocco. The Interior Minister, Fernando Grande Marlaska, said the situation there was now much calmer and that authorities were working to help minors and other vulnerable people still in the territory. During the week, around 8,000 people entered Ceuta from Morocco. The minister said 6,500 had now been sent back. Leaders of the world's 20 largest economies have kicked off a global health summit where COVID-19 drug makers are expected to promise cut price supplies of vaccines for poorer nations. The group of 20 nations looks set to call for voluntary licensing and technology transfers to enable a rapid increase in vaccine production. The EU will also promise to set up vaccination manufacturing hubs in Africa, which faces a dearth of doses. Thousands of Australian students have skipped school and gathered with climate activists to call on the government to stop funding the gas industry. It's after the government committed $468 million towards a power plant. Protesters say the money should be invested in green jobs. Rallies were staged in almost 50 cities and towns across the country. Myanmar's junta-appointed election commission will dissolve Aung San Suu Kyi's party because of what it said was fraud in the November election. Local media reported the decision was made during a meeting with political parties, which was boycotted by many of them. Myanmar's military took power at the beginning of February after alleging fraud in a November election won by Suu Kyi's party. Since then, Myanmar activists say more than 800 people have been killed in protests. The British Prime Minister has said he is concerned by revelations around how a controversial 1995 interview with Princess Diana was obtained by the BBC.
Well, I am obviously concerned by the findings of Lord Dyson's report.
Boris Johnson said the BBC should take every step to ensure nothing similar happens again. The conclusion of the inquiry that Martin Bashir lied and the BBC covered up those lies has dominated the newspapers, with William and Harry both releasing statements.
Lied and used fake documents to obtain the interview with my mother.
The Duke of Cambridge has blamed the broadcaster for fueling his mother's paranoia and worsening his parents' relationship. Meanwhile, the Duke of Sussex has said he used to drink a week's worth of alcohol in a day to try to deal with the trauma of his mother's death.
Work that I was going to have to deal with my past.
Prince Harry said he was willing to take drugs more than a decade after she died. He was talking to US talk show host Oprah Winfrey in their new series on mental health. He also spoke of the anxiety and panic attacks he had as a senior royal and his experience of his mother's funeral.
Because if we can share our stories and share our vulnerability, we know now, all of us know, that when you see anyone, hear anyone share their vulnerabilities, and if there's a connection or if there's a relatability to your own story that you perhaps didn't know that you've been feeling or that you've been suffering from, that helps heal that individual, and then there's a ripple effect that carries on from that.
Storms have caused chaos in western Turkey, with gale-force winds and rain battering several neighbourhoods. Winds reach speeds of 80 kilometres per hour in the Aegean Sea. This footage in Ayvalık shows winds battering the harbour. At least 20 boats sank here, while roofs of several houses were blown off and dozens of residences were flooded. And finally, 3 trained Labrador dogs have debuted as Thailand's coronavirus sniffer machines at a university in Bangkok. The retrievers go through hundreds of sweat samples per day as they join the fight to detect infected asymptomatic patients. The dogs can detect a volatile organic compound secreted in the sweat of COVID-19 sufferers, even in the absence of disease symptoms. Scientists on the project say the canines have gone through thousands of samples since early May, with a success rate of nearly 95%. And that's for international news around the world in 5. And now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. 2018 French Open champion Simona Halep has withdrawn from this year's tournament because she has failed to recover from a calf injury. Halep sustained the injury in her second round match at the Rome Masters on May the 12th, and the Romanian has deemed the recovery time too tight to be fit for the May the 30th to June the 13th Roland Garros Championship. Super Falcons head coach Randy Waldrum has released a provisional list of 25 players for next month's Summer Series tour of the United States of America. Coach Waldrum has confirmed that 23 players will make the trip to the US, meaning 2 players will be dropped from the squad. Captain Azizat Oshola, fresh from becoming the first African player to win the UEFA Women's Champions League, tops the list with Onome Ebi, Chiamaka Nadozie, Halimatu Ainde and Rashidat Ajibade among the squad. That sports news is back to you, Marachi.
We're getting more reactions now to the passing of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, and 10 others in a plane crash this evening. Speaker of the House of Representatives from Femi Gbajabiamila described the news as shocking and sad. He said the death of the Army Chief was unfortunate, coming at a time the Nigerian military is finding solutions to the security challenges in the country. The PDP Governors Forum also released a statement describing the Lieutenant General Attahiru as a gallant warrior. They said it's a most painful time that this has come, as the army chief is also leading the war against insecurity in the land, having just recently taken command of the Nigerian army, and they mourn with the president and the people of Nigeria. And also we have reactions from the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, which is in deep shock over the report of the fatal air crash. They said while it's been investigated, the APC commiserates with the president, the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, as well as the people of Nigeria and the families of the deceased for the tragic loss of the officers. And the main news again. It's been a Black Friday today in Nigeria as the country lost its Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, and 10 other officers in a military plane crash in Kaduna State. The president described the plane crash as one mortal blow to our underbelly at a time the armed forces are poised to end the security challenges facing the country. He has also described the Chief of Army Staff and other gallant officers as heroes who paid the ultimate price for peace and security in the land. The army has also officially announced the passing of the officers, while the Northern Governors Forum said this is another sad day in the history of the nation, as it has lost patriotic Nigerians who gave their lives to the defense of the territorial integrity of the country and also ensuring that the citizens live in peace and security. And as we leave you now with some sound bites of the former Chief of Army Staff, Ibrahim Attahiru, when he took over of control of the Nigerian army, our thoughts and prayers are with the families and loved ones who have lost these gallant soldiers. Good night.
We will take on Boko Haram decisively, and we are committed to the focus of the entire operation, which is the total annihilation of Boko Haram from Nigeria.
I personally, as your Chief of Army Staff, here to take cognizance and note of the challenges you have and ensure they are addressed.
Let me also assure Nigerians that what we are doing in this theater will be replicated across all the other theaters around Nigeria, so that we'll give a final knock to Boko Haram and indeed bandits and other who perpetrate acts of criminality within the country.